As you saw, it's a very short chapter in this textbook. It's mainly looking at the theory regarding a suspense account. They do give you some examples here, but again, it's looking at the errors that can be picked up on rather than having to actually complete it in detail. There is one example here at the end which talks about the suspense as a worked example. Okay, that's a good one to go through. We'll discuss it just now. Okay, so it looks short, but it's important because it talks about errors and fixing errors. Great, so you've got the heading, Chapter 11, Suspense Accounts. Why do we need a suspense account? It's to help correct errors. So the trial balance is Chapter 10. The trial balance helps us to do what? Pick up on mistakes. Okay, if I pick up on a mistake, what's going to happen? I'm going to have either too many debits or I'm going to have too many credits because it's not going to balance. Okay, so you can put a note there. The suspense accounts are drawn up from errors with the trial balance. That's the key. Okay, so if I have a trial balance that doesn't balance, I need to obviously create a suspense.
From errors, yes?
From errors, what did you say? Are drawn up from errors with the trial balance. Okay. Right, so any errors with the trial balance will give rise to suspense accounts, basically. Okay, so let's look at that. Right, I'm going to read this paragraph here because they give you one or two examples here regarding the suspense. Okay, and we'll summarize it. They say here, although the prime function of a trial balance is to test the accuracy of the double entry system, notice trial balance, we often use the trial balance as a list to prepare the financial statements, which saves time. However, if the trial balance fails to balance, then any financial statements prepared will not balance either. When the trial balance fails to balance, the difference between the total on the debit side and the total on the credit side is placed in a temporary account called suspense. That's important. Okay, so that's just background, which is kind of what we spoke about, which is what you wrote down there. Okay, so if there's mistakes in the trial balance, we pick it up. Let's write this down. The difference between the total of the debit side and the total of the credit side. The difference between the total of the debit side and the total of the credit side. Is placed in a temporary account called the suspense account. That's why we've got it. Okay, something. So think about the word suspense. Suspense is like when you watch a film, and like a really good film that might be like, let's say like a let me think of a genre. Maybe like a mystery. Okay, so if there's like a mystery or like adventure, there's like suspense. Like you're waiting, you're wondering what's going to happen next. That's the same thing. Okay, so what happened? We found a mistake. So now what? We put that into suspense, and now we need to fix the mistake. Okay. Right, you got that. Perfect. Alright, then they talk about the columns, which is fine. We don't have to read that. Here's an example. Alright, so Laura has extracted a trial balance. Let's write this down. Okay, e.g. Okay, so you can see how the suspense is actually created. This is actually a much better textbook than the one previously. Okay, so here they even give you a nice example showing how to get the suspense. Okay, so example, e.g.
Yeah.
Laura has a trial balance with a debit of. Laura has a trial balance with a debit total of. With a debit total. A total of with a debit total. Okay, debit total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nice, simple, easy number to write down. Okay. And she has a total credit column of, or total credit balance of, either or, doesn't really matter. Okay. But it's total credits.
Total balance of
132 546.
Okay.
Right, so now the question would be, you can make a little question here. What would the suspense be? What is the suspense? Basically, that's what you're saying. What is the suspense? Right, so let's go back and read that black summary that you wrote there in the black pen. Okay, your blue is describing the example. Okay, so what you've got in blue is the example. What did we say the suspense was?
The difference.
Exactly. So is the difference going to be a debit or a credit? What do you think? Which difference was, or let's say, which amount was bigger?
The credit.
Good. The credits are bigger in this example, meaning we are missing debits. Exactly. Okay, so the answer to what is the suspense would be, you can show it working. 132,546 minus 123,456 equals. Let's work that out. Grab the calculator, see what you get. 9,000. Okay, so let's see.
9,090.
100%. Okay, circle that, underline that, highlight that.
That would be a debit and a suspense.
Yes, okay, this would be a suspense account balance. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Right, see, Laura inserts a suspense account to make the trial balance. Right, but now the suspense needs to be 0. Okay, so also asterisk. A 0 suspense account means we don't have any errors or everything is correct. Something along those lines. Okay, that's ultimately what you want. You don't want a suspense. Okay, we'd have to write another example. I just want to show you this one. Okay, in that example, what balances do we have?
890321 for the debit column and 889617.
Which side's bigger?
The debit column.
The debit side's bigger. So if the debit side's bigger, what is my suspense going to be? Exactly. Okay, the 704. Okay, does that make sense? Alright, so it's pretty straightforward. It's not that bad. I'm actually thinking, you're going to bring the assignments on Wednesday. Maybe, I mean, we've covered like 11 chapters already. So we might even be able to do like assignment 1. So maybe to not go too far ahead and then we're going to come back and then redo everything. I think let's see how far we are on Wednesday and what assignments we can actually do. And then let's do the assignments then. Okay, why not? Because if we've covered 11 chapters, I'm sure we can probably do maybe 1 or maybe even 2 assignments depending. Okay. Right, and this is a paragraph there talking about what we just explained. Right, so how do we create a suspense? It's the difference between debits and credits. Okay, another heading. Okay, so this is still looking at suspense accounts, but now we're not looking at the creating of the suspense, we're looking at the correcting of the suspense. Okay, so you need to put like maybe like a subheading or a separate heading. Correcting errors. That's what we're looking at now. That's the last 2.5 pages. Correcting errors. Okay, so the whole purpose of a suspense is to identify errors that we need to fix. That's the purpose of it. Okay, so here they said, or let me ask you rather, I think you'll actually know what the answer is. Where do you think we're going to correct an error?
In the suspense account.
Yes, but how would we process the correction?
The debits and credits.
Yes, in the journal. Okay, so where do we correct errors? What journal? You get CRJ, CPJ, DJ, CJ, all those journals. Where would you put a correction? Do we have a correction journal? No, so where would it go? General journal.
Oh, general journal.
Generals for everything. Okay, so let's make a note there. Any correction will be processed in the general journal, and then we'll have debit this, credit that, and then we'll have reasons. Okay. Right, so let's look at one example. Yeah, this one's a good example. There's actually 2, so they're both good. I think it's worthwhile making notes on them because they actually show the process. Alright, so let's look at, you can even, if you want to, maybe start on a new page because I don't think you'll have enough space there. And then let's write down a heading. Example 1, page 80. Right, so I'm going to read it to you first, and then you tell me what your thoughts are. Okay. On 31st March 2014, VJ's trial balance failed to agree. What does that mean? There's a mistake. Good. The debit column total was 20,500. Write that down.
Yeah?
Debit column total equals 20,500. The credit column totaled 21,000. Okay, the difference was entered in a suspense account. What would the suspense have? Perfect. Okay, so draw a T account. Skip some lines there, because we'll add some more notes just now. Leave about 4 lines, because there's still 2 things to mention there. Okay, just put a T account. Draw a debit and a credit side. Okay, normal T account like you've always seen before. Perfect, and then just let's write in the balance.
This is suspense account.
Yes, suspense. Okay, so where are you going to put the suspense, the balance for the suspense? Which was bigger?
The credit side and the debit side.
Good, how much?
500.
Good, so on the debit side, you're going to write down 500. Okay, as an opening suspense balance. You can even put a note there, balance from the TB. TB, trial balance. Is that okay? Right, and highlight that and then just show how you got it, because that's the start. So when you look at a suspense, the first thing that you need to do is you need to look at what is the suspense, what is the error. Okay, so now I know I'm missing 500. I now need to process corrections to get the trial balance, to get the suspense to what? To 0. Okay, I don't want a balance in the suspense. Right now I've got a balance of how much?
500.
Exactly. Okay, so here's the errors that you've picked up. So VJ goes and looks at the details, the accounting records. VJ has extracted the following errors that have been found. Error number 1. The purchaser's account was undercast by 1,000. So underneath your debit and credit at the top, just put a little bullet.
Okay.
Say error 1 equals, and then write down a summary, and then we'll show the working just now.
Okay. Purchaser.
Error 1 equals purchases undercast by 1,000. Error 1, purchases. Yeah, these are errors, hey? So just make a note that they're errors.
Purchases undercast.
Purchases undercast by 1,000. Yeah, that's an error though. Error 1. Okay. Right, so now how are we going to fix that?
We're gonna purchases goes up on the debit side, so we're gonna debit to 500.
Very good. So now workings at the bottom. So beneath your T account, you can write down a heading workings, and now we need to show that. Okay, so what you've said is 100% correct. Working number 1 is going to be debit, purchases, credit what? No, you've already debited purchases.
Okay, so credit suspense.
There we go. That's the answer.
Must have do a T account.
No T account, just your workings. DR, so you write down debit, purchases, brackets, exactly what you said, which is correct, bracket expense increase. Okay, so undercast means too low. How do I make it higher? Increase it. How do I increase it? Purchase, expense, debit. Okay, and then suspense, credit. Don't identify it. Remember, suspense accounts don't have elements.
Yeah.
It's just random. It's just errors. Okay, so now we need to put that on our T account. Where are we going to put that?
Purchases, yeah.
Good. Okay, so in the suspense, so highlighter. Different color. Highlight your credit suspense in the working. Highlight the whole thing. And then here, when you write down the credit suspense, so what are you going to credit the suspense with? Purchases. Remember the contra account. Okay, so in suspense, I write down purchases 1,000. Highlight that in blue. And then you've got the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, now error number 2. So again, write that up there at the top. Okay, so error number 2 says, goods sold to Credit Latino for 500 were debited to Latino's account. These goods had not been recorded in the sales journal.
Okay.
Thoughts? Goods sold on credit to Latino. What is Latino to the business?
Debtor.
A debtor. Were debited to the Latino's account. Is that correct? Should you debit a debtor?
No.
Yes, you should. Okay, a debtor is an asset. If they're buying from the business, i.e. we're selling to them, you're debiting the debtor. That's correct. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, but then they say these goods had not been included in the sales journal. So what's missing?
The whole thing.
Not the whole thing, half of it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let me read it again. Just put a note at the top. Error number 2. Goods sold to Latino. Okay, let's replace the names that they've given you. Instead of Latino, let's use the word debtor. Goods sold to a debtor.
Yeah.
Recorded in the debtor's account, but omitted from sales. That's the error. Okay, so let's think about that. Have you recorded the first part of the transaction correctly?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, if a debtor buys from your business, you are selling. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm selling goods to a debtor, should I debit the debtor?
Yeah.
Yes. What didn't I do?
Credit sales.
Exactly. So that's what we need to do. So in your working, okay, different highlighter color, maybe use the green, but we can use it just now. Let's first write down the working. Okay, so this is working number 2.
Yeah.
Debit what, credit what?
So we're gonna debit the sales. No, credit sales.
Yes, credit sales because you've omitted the sales. Good. Credit sales brackets income increase.
Debit the purchases.
No, debit. Suspense, exactly. Okay, because remember, you've missed half of the transaction. Okay, and that's why things don't balance. Right, so highlight your debit in green. And then let's record that in the T account.
My debit.
Yes.
My credit.
No, the debit, the suspense. You're debiting the suspense with the credits. Same as what you did before. See, blue with blue. Okay, you're crediting the suspense with purchases. Here, you're debiting the suspense with sales. Does that make sense?
Oh, how much?
We didn't put the amount in.
Yeah.
500. Okay, that's it. Right, so now, question. Do we still have a suspense?
No.
Why not?
Suspense.
Exactly. So now to show that. Show the two totals. Suspense no longer has a balance. Everything is now correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so you fix the mistakes. 1,000 on the left, 1,000 on the right, and that's it. Makes sense? Okay, and that's how you do suspense. That's a really good example. I like this textbook. It's much better than the one last year. Okay. Here's one for you to try actually. Okay. How are we doing the time? Do you want this as homework or do you want to do it now? Let's do it now. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm not going to help you with it. The answer's on the next page, but I want you to try and do that. So all you need to do is just a T account. That's all. Okay, so the solution that we need to create is a T account. Workings, you might need workings. You can refer back to them. That's fine. That's not a problem. But let's see how this goes in terms of a test or practice question. Okay, so the answer that we're going to get is a big T account. That's what we're going to get. Okay, example 2, this is on page 81. Okay, so the answer that we want, big T account, like what you did here, suspense. That's what we want. You don't have to do the top part. We just did that for the rules. The answer that we need here is just the T account. Okay. If you want to, you can. You can always refer to it. It's a bit longer. It's 4 there. Yeah. So we want to see how the process goes. That's the main purpose of doing this. Okay, so big T account for suspense. That's what we're trying to draw up. Okay, debit and credit side. You'll need a few lines here. So maybe about 6 lines should be enough, because there are 4 errors to fix. Okay, perfect. Label it, suspense. Remember, a suspense account doesn't have an element. Okay, it's unique, it's special, because it helps you to rectify mistakes in your trial balance. That's what it does. Okay, so you'll never ever have a debit balance for it. The only way you'll get the balance is by checking the totals. Do you agree? Okay, so let's start with that. Can you find the suspense starting balance? Let's see.
Okay, so what do we here?
Yes.
Okay, the totals on the average trial balance at the 31st of November 2013 failed to agree. The debit column, so debits were,
How much was it?
230,161.
Okay.
Okay, the credit column was
189,521. Right, so now you've got that. So can you get a mark using that?
Okay.
Can you get a mark using that?
What do you mean mark?
Putting something into your answer.
Yeah,
Good. So what is the opening balance going to be? The difference, do you agree?
yeah.
Okay, but where are you going to put that? On the debit or the credit side?
Well, debit was mentioned on the credit side.
100%. Okay, so you're missing a credit of, no, you can say balance or total or something along those lines, the amount that you worked out. Okay, 4640. Is that correct? We can actually check it. Let's see. Just to make sure that we're on the right track. Yeah, 4640 is perfect. Okay, now just read all the errors,
Okay,
and
so
it's correct.
Motoring expenses of 1,700 have been entered in the vehicles account. So when you do debit motoring expenses, motoring,
Just read that again.
motoring expenses of 1,700 have been entered into vehicles account.
Okay, so what happened?
Put in our account.
Correct.
So
So
debit motoring expenses because it was to increase.
yes, and
Motoring expense increase and credit suspense.
yeah, you would have credited the vehicles actually, wouldn't you? Which is the suspense.
So then what? Suspense.
No, because look at this. Okay, so what actually happened?
Because yeah, we just said something is suspense, something is suspense.
True, yeah, but now here we've actually got an error that was affecting which accounts?
The vehicles.
Exactly. So must we reduce the vehicles? Yeah, so if we're reducing the vehicles, we're actually going to have to debit the
Vehicles.
suspense.
What do you mean?
Okay, so do we have a column for motor vehicles and vehicles? Do we have a T account? No. We've only got one T account for the suspense account.
Yeah.
Okay, so the suspense account is saying that we've got what? An outstanding credit amount.
Yeah.
And that outstanding credit amount is going to balance off with debits. Okay, so in this question, or in this error, okay, motoring expenses of 17 had been entered in the vehicles account. So it had been entered in the vehicles. So meaning you've already captured the 17 where? In the vehicles. How would you have captured it in the vehicles? As a debit. Okay, so from a suspense point of view, you're missing what?
Motors.
Motoring expenses, exactly. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have to remove the mistake. What was the mistake?
Vehicles.
The vehicls. So if I remove the vehicles, I'm crediting the vehicles, and then I'm debiting the
Motors.
motoring expenses. Yeah, but the motoring expenses is what I'm creating because that's the missing amount. Does that make sense? Okay, so vehicles I've already got, but now I'm going to eliminate it. So the motoring expenses is a missing debit. Doesn't make sense. So just asterisk that. Asterisk motoring expenses. And just say that's the new or difference. That's the missing amount, basically. The new / missing amount. Okay, so are you missing a debit or are you missing a credit? Theoretically, you're missing a debit because I captured it in the vehicles. Okay, so you would have to debit or credit the suspense. Debit the suspense because that's what I'm missing. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so the asterisk is for the missing amount, which in this case is the motoring expenses.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
1 second.
Yeah, 1,700.
Okay, next.
Okay, see, they've shown the working here, but they haven't actually put it into the expense, the suspense. I see they've just put it as the difference. So 1,700 is there. They haven't included error of principle included as a capital expenditure. So if this is an error of principle, would it have affected your?
No, because it cancels each other.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. So let's add that as well. So just rub out the pencil, just for that. That is fine though. Okay, let's write an extra note just after this example. So example number 1, just make an asterisk. Check if the error will affect the trial balance. That's important. Okay, because here there is a correction, so you would still have to do what you did, debit and credit, but you wouldn't have to provide for it in the suspense. So this one wouldn't affect suspense because it didn't affect the trial balance. The trial balance still balanced. Okay, so check if the error affects the trial balance. Perfect. Okay, so this one didn't affect the trial balance because, do you agree, I debited the vehicles and now I'm debiting the motor expense. It's still a debit. Exactly. Okay. Right, let's go back. Alright, so let's just keep that in mind when we check the rest. Number 2.
The total of the sales journal for July 16 through 20
okay.
had been posted to the debit side of the purchaser's account.
Okay, then we are missing something. No, maybe not. Let's think about it. Okay, so we had sales and we debited it to where? Purchases. Alright, so would that have been correct? You sold, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I sell, I have to debit the bank or the debtors and credit the sales. What did I do?
You debited the sales.
Posted to the debit side of the purchaser's account. So that means I captured a sale as a purchase. I'm going to have to undo that and then process the real thing. Good. Okay, so it would actually be double the amount.
Okay, so debiting
the purchases to fix it.
No, it would be crediting the purchases because you already debited the purchases. And we're going to the debit side of the purchase account.
Debit side of the purchase account. The total for the sales journal. A sales journal should have been a credit though. So then, okay, so if you're crediting the purchases, then you can't debit sales. You debit suspense. That's right. That's correct. That's correct. You're right.
So what purchase?
Credit the purchases because in the question they said it was a debit, so you need to get rid of that. Okay, so expense decrease. Right. Should you debit sales? No, you can't debit sales. So that means you have to debit the suspense. There we go. Okay, so now you're fixing the mistake. Right, do we still need to purchase, do we still need to record the sale?
Yeah.
They didn't say we recorded the sale, hey? Let's just make sure. The total of the sales journal for July had been posted to the debit side of the purchase. Yeah, we need to fix that. So then there'll be a second part to this. You would have to debit the suspense and credit the sales. Okay, what is the amount?
What is the
4,000. Okay. Perfect. 4,000, 4,000. There's 8,000 there. There we go. See?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so how do we report this here? Purchases, so credit jam.
Oh, hold on. I was reading 4,000. 4,000 is number 3. Wrong amount. Number 2 is the one we're looking at. 16,000. That's the right amount.
Okay.
Sorry, read the amount for number 3. Still the same though, yeah. Okay. Just put 16 for both. 16 for that one, 16 for that one. Okay, so that we can record. So suspense, you would highlight suspense, debit, you'd highlight the debit twice. Highlight that, and then just record it. Show it separately though, it's better to. So you would show a debit for purchases in the suspense, and you would show a debit for sales in the suspense.
Both 16.
Both 16, yeah, 16, what is it? 16, 320, yes. And then sales. Okay, and then highlight those 2 lines in green. Okay, perfect. Right, so that one's complete. Now we can look at 3.
The total of rent received was 4,000 for the year, had been entered as a debit entry in the billing payable account.
Okay, do you agree that's bad?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what you're thinking.
So it should be under rent received, not being paid.
Good, very good. So fix that.
So
you have 2 again.
Rent payable is a?
Rent payable is a liability.
So liability is decreasing, so it has to be debited. So debitor, creditor. So liability is decreasing, so that is rent payable. You're going to debit.
Yeah, rent payable account. Payable means a liability because it's payable. So you're debiting it. But be careful. They said you debited the account. So what must you do to fix it?
Credit.
The opposite, yeah. Okay, because they said it was a debit. So we can't process another debit. That would be wrong.
But if we're crediting rent payable, that's increasing the liability.
Because you shouldn't have debited it. Okay, because there shouldn't have been a liability at all here. Because did I buy, did I sell? I actually sold because this was rent received. Okay, so if you look at the question again, they said the total of the rent received. So what was the correct transaction? We received rent.
Yeah.
Okay, what did I do in the incorrect step? I debited the rent payable. So if I'm debiting rent payable, that's bad. Okay, because rent payable is not applicable at all in this scenario because this scenario is to get rent received. Doesn't make sense. Okay, so how do I get rid of the debit? Credit it. That's why we've got that. Okay, and then debit suspense. Perfect.
That's all.
No, that was removing the error. Okay, now how like have I captured 4,000 as rent received? Yes or no? No, I haven't. So how am I going to capture the error? The correct. Credit the rent, good. Rent income or rent received. Perfect. Debit the suspense. There you go. Nice, you got it. Okay, use blue, highlight those 2 things. Yeah, rent payable and rent received. 100%. Same amount, 4,000, 4,000. Okay, and that would be blue and blue, highlights and highlights. Okay, awesome. Last one. That's perfect.
Okay, last one says, Mira had withdrawn goods for her own use of 4,700 during the year. These goods had been entered on the debit side of the purchase account.
Okay, so what happened? She drew goods, so if she drew goods, that's drawings.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to process drawings. She didn't do any drawings. What did she do? She debited the good. So should you be debiting the purchases? Yes or no?
No.
Definitely not. Okay, so how are we going to fix that?
So debitor, creditor, so we're going to debit the drawings. No, credit drawings.
Oh, well, you can if you want to start. If you want to start with drawings, you have to process drawings. So it'll have to be what? Debit or credit drawings. Well, this was Mira had drawn goods from her own use during the year. These goods had been entered in on the debit side of the purchase account. Okay, so that means she took goods. If she took goods, she should have done what? She should have credited the inventory and debited her drawing. That's what she should have done. Okay, but she didn't. She debited the purchases. So let's fix that. Should you debit the purchases? No. Okay, so let's fix it. How are we going to fix that?
Credit the purchases.
Good. Let's start there. That's the easy one.
Okay.
And then?
Debit the
drawings. 100%. Right. So would this affect the trial balance? No. Why? Because drawings is a debit, purchase is a debit as well. Okay, both are debited, so there wouldn't be a discrepancy in your suspense. Okay, because purchases is a debit, drawings is a debit. You're just putting it in the right account, but the trial balance will still be the same. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So all you need to do is just add up, and you should get the same total. Let's check. Just add up the rights. You've already got the total for the left, 40640. Should work out. There we go, that's suspense. Yeah, so the suspense accounts aren't that difficult, but they're quite tricky when it comes to interpretation. Yeah, so just be careful with interpretation. Just think about what did they do and then what must they do. Okay, great. Well, that's 3 chapters today. Yeah, well done.